I believe in my next fight, I will be reinstated as the champion of the WBA, Manny Pacquiao. Do. Manny Pacquiao, breaking news, could very well be reinstated as the super champion by the WBA ahead of his upcoming mega fight with Mr. A. Stop that cat, Big Fish, Free Smoke Jr., Errol Spence Jr. And you know I gotta talk about that. Stay tuned to this video. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Make sure you smash the like button, also subscribe to my channel. Listen, I'm dropping the illest content in boxing, all things boxing. If you love what I'm doing, please support the channel. Hit the subscribe button. If it's your first time hearing my voice or you haven't done so, hit the subscribe button. What's in it for you? I drop daily boxing content, live streams, all things boxing, fighter weight, pre, post fight breakdown. You will get your Pacquiao, Spence news, all that and much more. This is your one-stop shop, Boxingego. Let's go. Now, important news. There were a lot of suggestions that Manny Pacquiao would be reinstated as the WBA super champion. And I want to give you guys the chronological order and some tidbits, so you might want to follow along, smash the like button. So the Boxing Voice, they did an interview with WBA president, and they basically said that there's a high probability or likelihood that for this upcoming fight, in case you haven't heard, Manny Pacquiao is fighting Errol Spence, Fox Premier Boxing Champs pay-per-view, August 21st. They will be fighting in Las Vegas. This is lit. This is a big fight. They haven't announced officially where it's going to be in terms of this specific venue. I know Pacquiao's pretty superstitious, so he likes the MGM, but there's some new venues in Vegas where the Las Vegas Raiders play. So I don't know if Pacquiao will be open to fight elsewhere. But you see, PBC on Fox said it's lit. Pacquiao announced a fight just about a week ago. And that's, it's a monster fight. Hell of an opportunity for Errol Spence, unified welterweight champion Pacquiao. He's coming off of an impressive win, somewhat of a layoff. He has not fought. And that leads me to my next point. You have a Cuban fighter named Yordenis Ugas, right? And great fighter. You'll see a couple clips. Yordenis Ugas is a beast, arguably beat Sean Porter when they fought. Definitely a ferocious, talented fighter. He was on the Pacquiao-Thurman undercard. He fought against a guy named Omar Figueroa. And he was appointed and uplifted to the super champion because Manny Pacquiao was inactive. So this is what happened. Yordenis Ugas was the WBA regular champion. He was the mandatory, things like that. And he kept fighting. Pacquiao beat Keith Thurman, and he was the super champion. Pacquiao and Keith Thurman, they fought in consolidated titles. So that actually happened first. Manny Pacquiao, Keith Thurman consolidated titles, and Pacquiao was the super champion. And you had Ugas become the WBA regular champion after that. But since Pacquiao did not fight all of last year, 2020, mostly because of the pandemic, you have to understand Pacquiao is a superstar name. He draws fans in, so he has that fanfare and name recognition. He's a legend in the game, 8 division champion. It just is not logistically in a company's best interest to have Pacquiao fight if you couldn't have crowds. And as you guys know, there was very uncertain times, especially when it first started with the global pandemic. Meanwhile, a guy like Ugas did fight. So Ugas was fighting. He did fight and fought a good fighter in Ramos who just beat Omar Figueroa, and he fought in the pandemic. So the WBA made the decision to make Cuban fighter Yordenis Ugas the super champion because Pacquiao was supposed to fight him. Look, so here's the news. So you have the actual date. So it was January 29th this all happened. Manny Pacquiao was removed as the super champion based on inactivity. So Ugas got elevated. And he said, thank God, thank my team. I made video. This is why you guys got to follow my channel for the latest and greatest in boxing. So he was all hyped. Yordenis Ugas became the super champion by default. Pacquiao, they didn't know when he was going to fight. Plus, he has a political career as a senator. So they said, we got to put you on ice. Pacquiao, you are now the champion in recess because we don't know when you're coming back. But now, fast forward to the future, we know Pacquiao's about to fight. They put together a mega fight, and ultimately, it looks like the WBA wants in on that. So now they're gonna, I guess, reinstate Pacquiao. So a bit of discouraging news for Yordenis Ugas, but it kind of makes sense. You know what I mean? This is a big fight, mega fight, Pacquiao Spence. I feel bad for Ugas, who, you know, he thinks he's a super champion. Man, what? Oh, that's his girl. And then all of a sudden, Pacquiao is back reinstated. So that has to be, you know, a shot. But the good thing from what I know about Premier Boxing Champions is if you continue to do what you're supposed to be doing, I feel like it all works out for you. If you keep looking good and showing up and having that discipline and sacrifice, opportunities will show up for you. So on one end, you know, you feel for Ugas, but at the same time, it just makes all the sense in the world for Pacquiao versus Spence to be for the title. Now, the other reason I don't really feel particularly like, this is why I have mixed feelings, I guess you could say, and I don't feel all the way bad, is because Manny Pacquiao, on top of it making business sense that a big fight with Pacquiao and Spence, of course, any sanctioning body is going to want to be a part of that. You see when Canelo Alvarez is fighting against Julio Cesar Chavez at catchweights, you see the WBC, they make up a commemorative special belt for a man-made, made-up division. So this is just common sense that you have Pacquiao Spence and you're going to want to reinstate Pacquiao for the belt you took away because he's not inactive anymore. You know when he's fighting. This could very well be Pacquiao's last fight depending on how it plays out. And, you know, that's just the reality of the situation. So, of course, everyone's going to want to be a part of that equation. And, you know, I don't really blame the WBA here in this particular given situation. Now, I seen old media is angry because you know what this means. This is a mega fight just based on the fact of Pacquiao's illustrious career and what Pacquiao's done already in the sport. He could retire today and he's a Hall of Famer, right? 8 division champion, no nonsense, fearless guy. But old media is hating that Pacquiao may be reinstated because a lot of them are anti-PBC, anti-black advisor Al Heyman, and this just makes the fight bigger if Pacquiao does indeed get reinstated. But I digress. At the end of the day, it's the WBA's belt. They took it away from him, and it looks like they're about to give it back to him. Another reason, on top of Ugas, if he continued, rest in peace to Bein, Kobe Bein, Mamba forever. Another reason, if they give the belt back to Pacquiao, why me particularly, I understand it and I have mixed feelings about it, but all in all, I understand the notion, is because you have to keep in mind, Manny Pacquiao really won the belt. So it's not like, you know, I know people say like, oh, Devin, the email champion and things like that because of his situation, not getting the Loma fight and the franchise champion and the whole mess that they made with the WBC. But if you remember, this was a fight that I went to. This was July 2000 and I think it was 2019 when it happened. And he really fought Keith Thurman to consolidate the belts. You see the belt over Keith Thurman's shoulder, right? So it's not like Manny Pacquiao, on top of, like I said earlier, him being a Hall of Famer, it's not like he didn't really go after the smoke. He fought a credible, undefeated puncher and a good boxer, Keith Thurman with the ponytail, for the WBA belt. So it's not like he was ever gifted the belt to begin with. You know, he really fought for it. So him being removed or stripped of the belt was only a consequence based on a global pandemic and based on the fact that he was inactive after this moment. And I was at this fight. Ugas, as I mentioned, was on the undercard, and this is where Pacquiao consolidated. Look at it. So he really earned this. He earned the belt.
Close fight towards the end. Keith Thurman showed heart and resilience, but Pacquiao, I thought he had him leaking earlier in the fight. Won enough early rounds. Look at the man's nose. Won enough early rounds to solidify this victory. So it's not like Pacquiao was ever gifted this particular title. Look, he had the boy Thurman leaking. So he really is the WBA champion. The only reason he lost it is because in a global pandemic, he was unable to continue fighting because logistically it doesn't make sense. So that's another reason I'm not mad if Pacquiao gets reinstated. No one really beat him since the Jeff Horn fight to take his belt, right? Now, this is extremely bad news for Terrence Crawford. Let's talk about that. Extremely bad news for Terrence Crawford, because now one could argue if Errol Spence and Pacquiao, if they fight for the belt and Pacquiao is reinstated, then the super fight just became even more super. So it's a super duper fight. And the winner of the fight will have every single belt except for the WBO belt that Crawford got in his very first fight at welterweight. So for Errol Spence, this could be the changing of the guard if he's able to beat Manny Pacquiao. Similarly, when Pacquiao, the claim to fame which caused him to shoot to the top was when he beat Oscar De La Hoya. You know, he was the younger fighter. De La Hoya was a respected champion, and Pacquiao moved up 2 weight classes and stopped him. So if Errol Spence can do that and beat Pacquiao convincingly, and Pacquiao was reinstated, then now it's for all the marbles, you know, it's going to be a unification as well. Very, very bad news, which I'll talk about more in a future video. Bad news for Terrence Crawford. Crawford was, and his team told you that he was in line to get Pacquiao. They've said this for the last 8 years, particularly in the last 2 years, and that never happened. That's why Errol Spence, in his post, he said hashtag blame Bob, because the fight you wanted, he didn't have to converse about it. He didn't do anything. He just got the fight, you know, and I think that's why he took that shot at Crawford and said, blame Bob. So it's going to be a bad look. Crawford got his title, and people want to see him against the likes of Pacquiao's, the Mikeys, the Danny Garcia, Sean Porter, Keith Thurman, etc. And it doesn't look like those fights are going to be next for Crawford. And one could really argue that Pacquiao really beat Jeff Horn. I've always told you I thought that. So the only fight that Crawford fought at welterweight against someone with the belt, the guy really shouldn't have had a belt. So really, Pacquiao hasn't lost since Jeff Horn. So Pacquiao should be a 2-belt champion if he gets reinstated with the WBA. And this Pacquiao-Spence fight would really be for undisputed, if we're really being real. And I know they say I talk a little fast, so you listen real fast. I ain't got to slow down for you to catch up. So rewind that. Pacquiao really didn't lose to Jeff Horn, even though they said he lost to him. So he hasn't lost since that moment. So realistically, he is a 2-belt champion, as is Errol Spence. So it really should be for undisputed this August. Now, make sure you click the link in the description to get TUBEBUDDY. TUBEBUDDY is an awesome browser extension to help you level up your YouTube content, optimize your videos. I've been using it for years. You can too, to ultimately make more money, increase discoverability. It is the #1 YouTube tool available for us YouTube creators. Click my link in the description. Give TUBEBUDDY a spin. I promise 2021, I'm going to continue to work and put out these videos and the content. Pacquiao Spence, it's going to be a mega fight. And then if Pacquiao gets reinstated, it's going to be a unification mega fight. Let me know how I did in this video. As always, hate, comment, and subscribe. Till next video is Ego. Signing off.